Hey, this is Erik Saunders with the Youth Football Coaches Handbook, and we are in the segment where we're talking about practice planning. There's a video above this regarding the actual coach's practice planner where I cover some of the details, but we're going to go into a little bit finer detail regarding practice. Practice is a huge part of youth football. It's a huge part of football, period, and it's a great place to really set the tone for your season and just kind of if you can get it right here, obviously you're going to have a much better season. So let's go ahead and jump right in. And the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to go into just planning your practice. And specifically, the best time to plan your practice is before practice, obviously, but before the season even starts. You got to, hopefully you know a little bit about your team, you know what they're all about, and you got to think about how many coaches you have. You got to think about how much resources you have, how many hand shields, how many stand-up dummies, cones, do you have speed ladders, do you have mini hurdles, half rounds, so you got to take an inventory. Just, and I'm an ex-military guy for those of you who read the book, so you know that in the military, we assess all of our resources first, and then we make our battle plan after that. So you really want to get very granular about planning your practice. It's really, really important. And so I'm just going to open up the coach's planner one quick time. You've got all the tips in, you've got all the tasks in here, and, you can see them, and you say, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But I just wanted to bring up one of the day sheets. So if I get out of day 1 here, let's get down to day 5. So day 5 here, and this was a Saturday practice. So we have an 11 o'clock set where the backs go, and we were doing harness training that day and fakes. And then, so we got 10 minutes of this, and if you're going to do these two exercises, both could easily take 10 minutes each. But, we need to stuff everything in there. So, 5 minutes was going to be harnesses, where the boys slip in the harnesses and we have them pull. And the other thing was going to be window fakes or box fakes, whatever you want to call them, but frame after you make your fake, and we work on their technique. The offensive line was gone with the other two coaches doing stance and steps. And we do stance and steps every night, every single night. We're going to hit stance and steps. Very important. 11 o'clock to 11:10, those stations were going on. We take a quick, especially in the summer, we take a quick water break right there, about 30 seconds. Water breaks are 30 seconds. Go get it, come back. They stand around in line. That's their break. So explain that to people. Say, hey, giving them a break. Hey, they're having a big break. They get a break for about a minute in between reps. So they don't need 5 minutes for water. Let them go over there and get it. All they do is sit on their mom's laps half the time anyway. So we come back with our defensive stations, and from 11:10 to 11:20, we took linebackers read react, and the D-line was doing hand ladders and probably a combination of hand ladders and BGOs. We came back at 11:20 once that's done, and now we are going into tackling. And the whole team in the beginning of the season, and we were still in week 1, you can't hit too much tackling. So we were doing one-step tackles with the stand-up bags, left, right, and center, and cross. And I do a little stunt cross where I say ready, set, go, and the first line cuts to the right. The second go launches the next line, and they go to the left, and they cross. So then we went into running plays, and we went into a quick set where we ran plays. And actually, I take that back. We went into a long set this particular day, and we ran plays with 4 linemen and 3 backs, making key blocks and holding them until the back had made a 10-yard gain on the play. And so we had coaches holding hand shields and stand-up bags in all of the positions where blocks need to be made, and the kids had to go, and we had 3 groups. This was actually last year, so I'm recalling this. And they had to run from the huddle to the play, and the 3 groups kept running them out, and we must have run probably 150 plays, everybody making blocks, and the kids all getting a coaching technique as they bumped into a coach. So that was a good use of our time there, and we obviously hit a ton of plays, and we got a lot of ground covered. 12:50 we went into conditioning, and then we went into our post-game. So that was a Saturday practice. Here's one that's maybe a little more detailed. So this was our Thursday practice, and you can just see what the level of detail is here. So you want to write it down. You may never, ever look at this. And I find that, in between sets, I might take it out and I glance at it, I take it out and I glance at it. Some guys laminate it. I don't. I fold it up and wad it up, put it in my pocket. But you want to try to spell out as much as possible. And, you never know when you're going to have a gigantic heart attack and your assistant coach is going to need to finish out for you. So make sure that you've got all this stuff written down. That's what the planners are for, and take time to do it. Maybe get up a half an hour early every morning during football season and do this while you have a cup of coffee. And so, you know, that's just, you don't want to wait till it's too late to think about what you need to do. Another great time to do this is when you're done with practice at night, come home, probably eating your dinner at your desk, do the next day's practice plan after practice, because then you know what you saw that needed improvement. So those are a couple of tips about practice planning for you. And really, it really just boils down to knowing your resources, knowing your team, and knowing their needs. So the next thing that we're going to talk about are tips for running a great practice. And here are a couple of tips for this is just words, and it's from me to you. So number one is get the guys there on time. And let me make sure. Here we go. So excuse me. Let's go ahead and say plan it to the minute. And so planning it to the minute is the first minute, and let's say my practice starts at 6 o'clock. I'm out there at 5:30, and that field is set up by 5:45, and at 5:45, kids are starting to arrive, and I'm starting to coach them immediately as soon as I see them. You know, we get them, and we get them started. But always start on time. Don't ever, ever start late. If it's at 6 o'clock, start it at 6 o'clock. Be standing there looking at your watch. Don't ever say, let's just wait till a few more guys get here. That is just not the right thing to do. It sets the wrong tone. It says to everybody that is there that why in the heck did they even bother to get there? And if you do that, you're going to have people showing up late for your practice because they're going to know that you're going to wait for them. You know, and then you run over, and then all the parents are mad. Well, he ran over. Well, I ran over because everybody's late. You know, it's like a bad relationship. So be militant about it. Just start it at 6. Start it on time. Don't worry. If there's nobody there, start it on time. Just go out there and pretend they're there. So that is a great tip. Plan it to the minute. If, you know, I got stance and starts that are supposed to last for 5 minutes. If I am not done with stance and start at 6:05, I'm done with stance and start. I don't give a damn if we did one of them, which we never will, because the goal, you know, I got a point to make about practice, and the point is this. Who teaches, have you ever sent your kid to a skateboarding camp? Have you ever seen a skateboarding camp? And the answer, I've not. I'm sure they're out there now in this day and age of camp for everything. But nobody teaches kids how to skateboard, but yet they can jump 12 feet in the air on a skateboard, flip around 8 times, you know, while they're grabbing the board, and they can land in the damn ramp. And that's, you know, and they do all that without the guidance of adults. So how do they learn to do that without the guidance of adults? It's because they just do it over and over again. And when they fall down, they realize that they were doing it wrong, and they fix themselves. So my tip there is always rep something as much as possible, and always rep something twice before you stop the group to give instructions. So don't let your assistant coaches or parents say squat. And just say to them, if they say, look, let's get through 2 reps, then we're going to coach them up. Get through 2 reps. Let the guys have a point of reference as to what it is that they're trying to do. So, I mean, if the kid just gets down to stance, you go, no, son, that's all wrong. You know, he didn't get any mental or physical checkpoints for him to relate to what you're getting ready to say. So let them cycle through and let them take as many reps as possible. So know what is most important, and we talked about in the task planner, on the webinar we did last night. But you got to kind of rate what you're trying to do. That's very important. And don't spend a lot of time, you know, on punting or something. You know, blocking and tackling. If you don't know what is important, blocking and tackling. If you teach your team to block, and if you teach your team to tackle, and maybe speed. Don't ever let go of speed training because you'll need it. And the kids will get faster during the season. You know, a slow team will get fast. So blocking and tackling, the basics, teach the fundamentals. That's what's important. Make sure that comes first. And put in the foo-foo stuff later. If you've got a good team, then knock yourself out. Keep it moving. Short lines. Don't have any more than, you know, 5 or 6 guys in a line if you can help it. And if you know you can't get away from that, you better be fast. You got to fight. You know, make sure that the kids know. Look, when the kid in front of you goes, your butt better be in your stance and ready to go. And if they're not, we discipline with hit-ems. And hit-ems are up-downs, you know, where the kids chop in place, we blow the whistle, they fall on their bellies, they get back up. I don't ever have guys run laps. Running laps is the dumbest thing in the world. You know, you just sacrifice 5 minutes or 10 minutes of your practice, you know, and then you sit there and you're probably going to moan and groan with your other coaches. Laps are dumb. Have them do hit-ems. And here's the thing we do with hit-ems. If the kids are, let's say the kid that is next in line is not set when it's time for him to go. that's delay of game. So they got to do 5 hit-ems. If a kid has a fist fight with another kid, which never should happen, but they do push each other. So that's an unsportsmanlike. That's 15 hit-ems. Excuse me. So I always set whatever it is that they're doing wrong. It's either delay of game, it's unsportsmanlike, it's holding, it's whatever it is. It's offsides, illegal motion, whatever. They do the hit-ems in accordance with the penalty. And if you can't think of a good penalty that goes with whatever they're doing wrong, if it's a fail to execute situation, guy fumbles a ball, I have them do 2 hit-ems. I don't mind failed execution, so they don't got to do 5 for that. But two quick ones just because they failed to execute. Just let them know that we need to focus. So there's a whole other thing on that. And that's the discipline. The next thing, so that was short lines. If you can't keep short lines, keep them moving fast. Guys got to know to move, and if they don't know to move, the next thing is discipline. So get them used to discipline. Don't let anything slide ever. It doesn't mean you have to be, a jerk. It doesn't mean you scream. Football is for everybody to have fun, but that has nothing to do with discipline. Discipline is doing the right thing on your own. That's discipline. And we want kids to do that. That is a message that we have to set. And so the kids, if a kid does something wrong or they don't do what we want them to do, it's going to show up on the field. It's going to show up everywhere. You have to nip it in the bud immediately. If there's talking, and how many times have you seen guys talking in the line, right? So talking in the line, they're not paying attention to instruction. It's impossible. So and we just say, look, guys, you're not listening. That's going to cause us to screw up. That's delay of game. That's 5 hit-ems. Let's get going. Get them chopping. And up and down we go. And you know what? If you take, and you don't have to yell and scream, and it's not bad. Just explain to them, look, discipline is good. We're going to do this because this is how football is, and you should embrace these things. And this is the way that I'm helping you. And if you can get your head around this concept, you will have no troubles. And you know what? I get more sincere thanks from parents because I run a discipline, and it is every single night. And we're on an organization where there's 8, 9, 10 teams every year in our organization, and parents come from other squads, and they come and watch our practice because it's so disciplined. It looks good. And and then they commiserate with my parents, and they say, man, it's too bad about this or whatever. But the truth is, any coach can do this. And I've seen about 20 organizations this year where every coach talks about, that's great, but you know what, our fullback couldn't do this, or the kids are really wild. Nope, the kids are a reflection of the coach. Your team is an extension of yourself. If your team has no discipline, then you know what I'm going to say. You have no discipline. You're not enforcing discipline. The team is an extension of the coach, and that's what football is all about. And really, you're gonna send kids down the right path if you can get this one done. So we're going to cut this in half. I don't want to make the video too long because for downloading purposes and compression and all that. So we're going to put a fork in it, or come to a stop right now on discipline. We'll be right back here in a second with some more tips on running our practices.